Krishna 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 Hare Krishna 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 Krishna. Hare Krishna. Welcome to Pariprashnena Sevaya. For those who may be wondering, Pariprashnena Sevaya is taken from the sacred book Bhagavad Gita, spoken by Lord Krishna. And Prashna actually is Sanskrit, it means questions. Sevaya means service. So it is very similar to what we call Q&A, questions and answers. Answers, of course, best answers are in connection with devotional service. We'll begin with our short invocation to create a favorable atmosphere and Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschacha Deshatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Everyone may kindly repeat the following two short mantras. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Shri Sarabhyaya Namaha. 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 Mukham karoti vacharam pangum vangayate girim yakripatamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Cell phone. Actually, today, and I believe I'm not the only one, I had a great opportunity of watching for the first time in full. I have seen glimpses of this very wonderful documentary movie, actually, that is entitled Hare Krishna. The movie, the movement, and the Swami who started it all. For the next 2 days, 10th, 11th, 12th, I believe, there is a possibility for free screening. This movie has been playing around different countries for the last few years and has received very, very favorable reviews because it is a very unique story. It is the most important story of the century. especially for devotees, because anyone who takes a few minutes to watch this movie will have some understanding, will get a glimpse of what the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, what he accomplished by going to the Western countries in the very few years, short 12 years of traveling 14 times within 12 years. He traveled 14 times around the world. He established 108 temples and published through his Bhaktivedanta Book Trust 60 million books in 25 languages. And now, 50 years afterwards, the temples from 108 have increased to 820 temples. Farm communities and restaurants and schools and colleges. And from 60 million books, the Hare Krishna movement is society through its publication wing, the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, has distributed 520 million books in 87 languages, and has distributed through his different centers in different countries around the world 3 billion vegetarian meals. That's 3 billion vegetarian meals distributed. This was all made possible by the mercy of our founder, Acharya Srila Prabhupada. I urge devotees or anyone who's listening to kindly view this documentary. It is very, very inspiring. Many wonderful devotees who were physically present with Srila Prabhupada, who served him very closely, were his personal secretary. They are also sharing their testimony, and many other individuals, many of whom are not full-time devotees, but among them scholars who have met Srila Prabhupada, who have read his books, and therefore, please, I watched it twice, actually, today, because it is so inspiring. We will now go to our regular reading from the book entitled Speaking About Varnasrama, as we have been doing every session. And our last section was chapter 12, where we read about petroleum versus ox power. And here's an interesting, very short chapter 13, which is a morning walk also in Rome in 1974 on the 28th of May. So some of the title, it's only 2 pages, less than 2 pages. And the title of this chapter is Eskimo Self-Sufficiency. Some of the themes: live locally and be self-sufficient. Travel should be for pleasure and not required for one's livelihood. Very interesting. Traditionally, people in villages, they did not have to travel for work. Their work was in the village, in the backyard. But occasionally they would travel for pleasure. For pleasure means to visit a holy pilgrimage. India is full of so many holy places. And it is actually explained, this is part of the Vedic culture. When I read that many years ago, I could understand how profound, how deep, and how beautiful is the Vedic culture. That every Indian person, anyone connected, born in this culture, knew that actually before I leave my body, I must visit the Chardham. Chardham means 4 holy places. There are thousands of holy places, but there are 4 main holy places in India. Beginning on the east side with Jagannath Puri, then down to Rameswaram in South India. On the west coast of India is what is on the west coast? No. Is Dwarka, yes, where Lord Krishna lived for many years in the later part. And then the 4th is in north of India, Badrinath in the Himalayas. And people, it is said, especially if they were older, they would make their will before leaving, because in those days there were no trains, no convenience as we have today, and people would walk. They would walk for days, for weeks, and for months, not knowing that they would be able to come back. So traveling, and then the last, set the example of how to live simply and be ideal. So Srila Prabhupada is speaking here, someone is somehow speaking about Greenland, where people cannot live locally. How about, because the theme was how to live locally. So Prabhupada is telling, no, karma is there, that is another point. My point is that any condition one can live locally. That is my point. They are supposed to be uncivilized and they live in the ice cottage. There is no sufficient things for eating. How they live, that is the point. So why civilized man cannot live locally? So one objection is that, to that, is that they say that now cultures have been spread more by all this transportation. You even write that the world is now like a global village. But if everyone just stays in their own place, they won't know what people and culture is like in other parts of the world, and their view will be more narrow. Prabhupada replies, no, they may go sometimes, just like in India. They used to live locally, but at the same time, they used to go to the pilgrimages by walking. It is not prohibited that one should not go out, but when one goes out, he goes out of pleasure, not as obligation, means not being forced to work. At the present moment, it has become an obligation that one must go out of his home, of his village, of his country. That is defective. There was no need of so many transports. People remain locally. One has to go for livelihood 100 miles. This is defective. But people say they travel for education. Another devotee is making this point. What education? Hippies. Your education has ended into hippies. Finish that education. You have created this animal civilization. Now you have to reform. That reformation is Krishna consciousness. So you have to make an example what is actually human life. Then others will see. You cannot stop them, but some of them Those who are intelligent, they will see, yes, here is life. As they are coming to nakedness, they will know, they will come to this. So you have to become an ideal society, you live locally, and be self-sufficient. They will see that it is possible to live locally without movement, and still highly cultured men, self-sufficient. That is required. And just want to share, before we go to our questions, this was on one of our groups here, whereby two devotees who are living in central Italy. Italy, as we know, is ravaged by this whole pandemic. So many people are in great need. So one reference was sent here to know and read about the activities of these two devotees, Gunagarahi Prabhu and his wife Rukmini Devi Dasi. By looking at this particular reference, one can know the varieties of food stock and medicinal herbs that they have. They live in central Italy and they are self-sufficient and nothing to worry about the external world. They don't depend on anyone for food, medicine, and shelter. This was Srila Prabhupada's vision to his followers, that of self-sufficiency, which is based on farming and cow protection. Central theme that we are constantly referring to as well. Now we will take a few questions. We are in our 16th session. Question number 49. And this is from the devotee Amit Sethi from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in the U.S. Maharaj, could you please explain the stages of developing the taste for chanting the holy names? Namaruchi, taste for chanting the holy name. I have been chanting for almost 2 years, but still feel chanting as a required activity or another daily chore which needs to be done to get through the day. I wonder, would I ever be able to get to the stage where I get up in the morning and am excited and looking forward to chanting my rounds instead of thinking chanting as another mundane daily activity? And how to achieve that stage of liking or love toward chanting as well? Thank you. Very nice question. That is actually described by our acharyas as a level and a stage that gradually develops if we nicely, properly apply the process. 2 years is a short time. We have been in this material world for hundreds and thousands of years. We have no idea. Since time immemorial, practically. We have been disconnected with the process, the practice of devotional service. We've been disconnected with the chanting of the holy name. Therefore, our situation is a very serious one, in that our disease is it's been a long-term disease. Therefore, we should know that there is a process which is, of course, nicely described and prescribed by our acharyas. This we find explained in the Nectar of Devotion, especially, where it gives in detail how from the very beginning level of devotional practice we can gradually rise. By performing these activities of consciousness, we'll gradually become purified. And the whole activity begins actually by regularly hearing. Hearing about Krishna. Srinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Sravana Kirtana Rigantastu Yadadrani Vidinoti Suritsatam. One very nice verse from the Bhagavatam, first canto, whereby it is explained that if we simply go on hearing from the Bhagavatam especially, or Bhagavad Gita, any Vedic literatures, but especially Srimad Bhagavatam, then this purification will gradually be taking place. It is described 9 levels, one of which is this taste for chanting. It's called ruchi. We mentioned a little earlier, nama ruchi. Nama ruchi, taste for chanting the Nam, the holy name. So it begins with strong conviction, sraddha, strong faith, ado sraddha, tato sadhu sangha, second stage, associating with devotees, associating with serious devotees, avoiding those who are less serious in Krishna consciousness. Ado sraddha, tato sadhu sangha, and number 3, bhajana kriya, taking up the process. And in the beginning, as you rightly mentioned, it's like, it's an endeavor. It's not always, most of the time actually not at all natural for us in the beginning, especially to rise early in the morning, to be so regulated. Therefore, that is called the level of sadhana. Sadhana means practice, practicing. The more we practice, just like in the Olympics, people who end up winning the gold medal is because they have practiced. They have practiced for a long time. So bhajana kriya. By bhajana kriya means actually taking up the process wholeheartedly, and in that third level of bhajana kriya, one commits himself by taking diksha or initiation and agrees to follow the 4 rules and regulations. And then the 4th stage is anartha-nivritti. All of the unfavorable, unwanted things within the heart gradually become cleansed. We become purified to the point that we reach the 5th stage, which is called nistha. Bhajana kriya, anartha-nivritti, then nistha. Nistha means to become steady. Steadiness, Prabhupada explains, means very seriously following the 4 rules and regulations. We cannot attain the level of steadiness. Steadiness also means full peace of mind, not disturbed, because one is properly situated, understands the philosophy, and is no longer influenced by the lower modes of material nature. Nistha actually means to be situated in a mode of goodness. So these are the first 5 which are actually the most difficult, especially anartha-nivritti, and to come to this level of nistha. Unless one comes to the level of nistha, we cannot reach the higher level. After nistha is ruchi. One can develop the taste, ruchi, asakti, attachment, strong attachment, to rise in the morning, to attend Mangal Arati, to hear Srimad Bhagavatam class, to hear from devotees, to associate with devotees, strong attachment to be with devotees, to never leave the good association of devotees. And then, therefore, ruchi, number 6, 7, asakti, attachment. 8, bhava, which is described by Srila Rupa Goswami as the preliminary stage of pure love of God. And the last stage, of course, is prema, where one develops pure love of God. So you can see that this ruchi is quite high, is number 6 of 9. Therefore, we must be very attentive, we must apply ourselves nicely, and if we do that, it is guaranteed. It is guaranteed one will develop a taste for chanting the holy name, one will develop a taste for performing devotional activities, etc. So, one should, on a regular basis, be studying these two very important books for all devotees, actually, by the same author, Srila Rupa Goswami. One is smaller, it is called Upadeshamrita, the nectar of instruction. The nectar of instruction, and the other Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the complete science of bhakti or devotional service. So I'm sure that if you follow this system as recommended by our acharyas, then that taste for chanting the holy name will certainly manifest. We go to the next question, which is from the U.S. as well. We're getting a few questions from the U.S. This is from Detroit, Michigan, from Jayabal. Please accept my humble obeisances. Most of our devotees working in Detroit, supporting automobile industry, like software engineer and mechanical engineer. Most of the cars are produced with leather seats. As a devotee, directly or indirectly supporting animal-based products, will the karma affect us? Your servant. Good question. Actually, all activities which are not performed and which are not ideal, which actually don't fit in the category of, we could say, traditional technologies. In traditional technologies, sometimes they will produce leather, but only from animals that have died naturally. It's not that we cannot use leather, we use leather from Mridanga. Of course, unfortunately, the vast majority of Mridangas are not having leather from protected cows. And that's why one of our devotees, Bharat Prabhu, started to make a special kind of mridanga, which therefore does not implicate. So yes, we become implicated because we're involved in so many different ways in what is called non-traditional occupations. This is a very big topic, a very important one. Vedic culture is showing us and meant to train us, if we accept that culture, that lifestyle, to train us in activities that will not implicate us. And therefore, what you're describing here in Detroit and in so many other places, in different countries as well, so many people caught up, forced to work in all kinds of factories and industry, where there are many deviations from the actual Vedic norm. So we are compromising. we are compromising in so many ways. This is all the whole situation of a society based on ugra karma. Prabhupada explains and translates ugra karma by a very nice term. Ugra karma means ferocious activities, very unhealthy activities which are taxing to the mind, taxing to the body, which are implicating us knowingly or unknowingly in so many different ways. So yes, there will be karmic reaction. To minimize those karmic reactions, therefore one should, if one is unable to leave this kind of a situation, then one should engage oneself as much as possible in devotional activities and offer as much as possible the income that one is receiving for the purpose of spreading Krishna consciousness. If one can, and one should be endeavoring for that, one should seek to engage in activities which will not in this way implicate one in this kind of karmic reaction. So that is the beauty of the Vedic culture. Our sages and our acharyas, and ultimately, of course, it comes from Krishna. Krishna has created this more simple, simplified system of living, as we have been hearing again and again. Localized living, connected in a simple and natural way with Mother Nature, caring for all kinds of living entities in our community, in our village, especially the cows and the brahmanas. Go brahmana hitayacha, by the protection of cows and brahmanas, then the whole of society can become peaceful. So yes, so many of these activities that we are engaged in are helping to support in different ways activities which are actually adharmic, which are therefore implicating the devotees, and therefore Srila Prabhupada instructed in so many ways that we should be living this more simplified and natural lifestyle. We can go to another question. And this one is from India, from Kakinada. Kakinada is in the state of Andhra Pradesh. So this is question number 51. Sent by Srita Kirti Prabhu. Hare Krishna Maharaj, kindly accept my humble obeisances. Supreme Lord resides in every living entity as Paramatma. Then why everyone is not becoming a Shuddha Bhakta of Krishna? If Krishna is right here, within anyone's heart. Yes. So that's the question. Krishna is with all the living entities as super soul in the heart. So why we're not becoming pure devotees? This is nicely explained in the Shastra, whereby the example of two birds in a tree. Most devotees have heard this example explained by Srila Prabhupada. So there are two birds in a tree. One is simply busy eating the fruits of the tree. This is the conditioned living entity who is preoccupied on the material platform and in the mood of enjoying, eating the fruits of the tree. Not even aware, not even conscious that there is another bird right beside him who is just sitting there. He is actually witnessing, Paramatma is witnessing all the activities of the living entities. But because we have been given this minute independence and free will, the super soul, the presence of super soul within the heart, the Lord will not interfere. So that is explained in the Bhagavad Gita. Sarvasya chaham riddhi sani visto mata smritir jnanam apohanam cha. That the spirit soul is within the heart of every living entity, and within the heart as well is the super soul who gives knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. So even for devotees, of course, anyone who has made that step towards Krishna by taking a book, by going to a temple, by becoming a devotee. So one may also ask, and possibly this is the question you're asking directly, because the question can be for both non-devotees as well as devotees. We know, people who are not devotees, they don't even know that they're super soul. And most people don't even know that they are also spirit soul. So obviously, they will not know about super soul. But those who are devotees, who read all the time about the super soul within the heart, why they're not becoming devotees? So our acharyas and the Shastra explain that Maya is very powerful. Maya has two potencies. One is called the covering potency of Maya, which is for the vast majority of people who have, for various reasons, not yet come in contact with devotees. They're totally ignorant about their real identity. They're ignorant about the nature of the soul. They're ignorant about the super soul. They're ignorant about practically everything. So that is why this feature of Maya means illusion, is that it covers totally, entirely such conditioned soul. And therefore such living entities called Baddhaji, conditioned by the gunas, conditioned by the modes of material nature. Therefore they are forced to act in so many different ways. Whereas the position of a devotee, he is no longer covered as a non-devotee is covered, because he's come in contact with the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, and every day he has so many opportunities to practice Krishna consciousness, to remember Krishna, etc. But the second influence of Maya is called the throwing potency. If we are not always cautious, if we're not always very attentive in our practice of Krishna consciousness, then even though we are devotees, we will not be hearing the good instructions that Krishna is giving. Krishna, as super soul within the heart of all living entities, in the human form of life, one can actually hear. In the lower species, super soul is there, but living entity, and that is their great misfortune, they cannot hear, they cannot understand, they cannot establish contact or relationship with the Super Soul. That is a unique and special feature of the human form of life. But even as devotees, why is it that we do not always fully take advantage? Because of various weaknesses that are there, because of being inattentive, because of not strongly having our shraddha very firmly fixed and established. So therefore, the more we become attentive in our practice of Krishna consciousness, then the more we are, see, this is one of the most, is described by our acharyas as being the foremost duty and responsibility for a disciple. What is the foremost duty and responsibility? It is not this particular act or service. The foremost duty and responsibility for each and every person who has taken a spiritual master, who has accepted a spiritual master, is to actually meditate on the instructions of the spiritual master, is to understand the mood and the mentality of Guru, you see. And that is why it is mentioned, Srila Prabhupada explains how there are different kinds of devotees. First class devotee, second class devotee, third class devotee, and fourth class devotee. Fourth class devotee, Prabhupada describes as someone who is given an instruction, doesn't follow. That's not very good. He's a devotee, and he receives instruction from Guru or authorities, but he doesn't follow. Such a person will not make advancement in Krishna consciousness very quickly. Third class of devotee, he also, when he receives instructions, he will take up, he will follow, but reluctantly. He will avoid to being he will avoid the darshan of the Guru, because he knows Guru, maybe he will give me some service. So he will stay away. And if somehow it's inevitable and the Guru gives instruction, okay, I'll do it, but he won't be happy. That's number 3. Second class devotee, which is a much better situation, he also needs to be instructed. And he's actually anxious. He's looking for instructions from the spiritual master. And whenever such instruction comes, he's very happy. And very happily he will execute those instructions. And then Prabhupada explains the first class devotee. The first class devotee is that devotee who doesn't need to wait for instructions. He already knows. He already knows the desire. He has meditated on the various previous instructions to other devotees. He has read the various purports that are in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. He has been meditating, and therefore, because such a devotee is very sincere and very much surrendered, his quality, his level of surrender is very high. And therefore, Krishna being pleased upon such a devotee, Krishna reveals to that devotee what he should be doing. And therefore he doesn't need to wait for specific instructions from his spiritual master. So therefore, we should develop this. This is one of the important instructions. given by Narada Muni. We quote this verse very often. Smritam cha tadvidam rajan yena chatmat prasidati. In order for all of our needs and necessities of life to be met on the bodily, physical level, on the mental level, or on the spiritual or social level, if we as devotees endeavor every day actually to think about, to meditate upon what is actually the mission, what is Krishna's mission, what is Krishna's mission as revealed by our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada. What is Krishna's mission as revealed by various representatives of Srila Prabhupada who are endeavoring to follow very wholeheartedly in Srila Prabhupada's mission and the mission of our previous acharyas. If we have that, if we develop this mood, this mentality, then Krishna will, Dadami Buddhi Yogantam, Krishna will give us this buddhi, intelligence, by which we can come to Him, by which we can engage in His devotional service. So therefore, here the question being, why everyone is not becoming a Shuddha Bhakta of Krishna? Because not everyone is surrendered as they should be surrendered. Not everyone is taking seriously the various instructions that are being given by our acharyas. So therefore, we must continue to hear those good instructions by associating with devotees who are very enthusiastic and always nicely engaged in serving Krishna. Then we will also develop this enthusiasm and this strong desire to serve. Service is the essence for every devotee. Bhakti means service, isn't it? Bhakti, devotional service, pure devotional service, pure, unalloyed, unmotivated, uninterrupted devotional service. Let us see here. Actually, I believe we should bring this to a close. We have, let's see. We have altogether 56 questions, so we're stopping here today at at question number 51. So once again, a reminder to all the devotees to be very cautious in these very challenging times, to listen to our local authorities, to follow the general good directives that are given in our respective countries as well. Situations will vary from one country to another. Even within one country, they may vary from one state to another. So we should be very sensitive to others in general. This is the foremost quality actually of a devotee, to be caring, to be sensitive, to be compassionate for the well-being of all living entities. And there are different ways. Here in India, for example, many of our temples are not only planning, but already engaged in prasadam distribution, working closely with some government agencies as well. There are different ways in which we can be helpful. A lot of our devotees are going online to have more varieties of outreach programs. And in times of distress, naturally, people are looking for various kinds of support, and therefore, as devotees, let us be ideal and especially by ourselves becoming and remaining very fixed in our practice of Krishna consciousness, cooperating with all concerned, and therefore we invite devotees as well, since more time is available, being most devotees are at home as well. Please do take some time to hear more lectures from His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Please take more time to read Srila Prabhupada's books, especially as they pertain to topics in relation with what we are hearing constantly in these discussions, in this whole session of Pariprashnena Sevaya, connected with the whole theme, very fundamental theme in the Vedic culture of self-sufficiency and sustainability. So if we do this, we will be pleasing Srila Prabhupada, and by pleasing Srila Prabhupada, we will be pleasing Krishna, and in this way we will attract the favors of the Lord. This is how we attract the mercy and the blessings of Vaishnavas and of Krishna himself, by being more attentive to the mission that we are all part of. So we can all together be chanting the holy name, and we will look forward to see everyone again tomorrow. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki, Jai Samasta Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki, Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hare Krishna.
His Holiness Bhakti Raghava